Ni hao. What's up, guys? UFC Shanghai, Johnny Walker versus Mingyang Zhang. This is the full card predictions. I'm going to go through each fight one by one, giving you guys my picks. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get the full card breakdown underway. Starting the card off, we got a pretty interesting light heavyweight matchup between NURGOZHAY and SATYBALDIEV. I am picking the side of I like his debut better for really, basing things off of that. DR lost. Both of these guys lost. Let's keep it honest. But fought up at heavyweight. He also fought Martin Buday, who's a pretty large heavyweight at that. NURGOZHAY took on Brenderson Ribeiro, and he got submitted in the second round. Also got dropped in the first round. Another reason why I'm going with I like his pace, his striking. He's more active. DR does like to, find the counters, but he also has this nervous tick that I think a lot of people can time. When he's striking, he likes to swipe at his face a lot. And, it kind of, when I was watching the Ribeiro fight, I feel like it was, blocking his vision and things like that. So that's another thing that, threw me off of him. He also missed weight pretty badly in that fight. He came in at like 210.5. It was, just a really sloppy performance from NURGOZHAY in his debut. I'm not trying to hold him to that standard, but I don't know, man. When he broke onto the scene when his Contender Series fight and, that debut fight, it was really supposed to be a showcase. Ribeiro isn't really that, he's not that great of a light heavyweight. NURGOZHAY, I feel as though, was supposed to be more versatile, but he ended up getting finished in the second round. SATYBALDIEV was able to, defend a couple takedowns from Buday. Like I said, he's a pretty large heavyweight. I think he's like 6'5", 6'6", damn near, every bit of 265. Made that fight short notice, and, he knocked Martin Buday down in that third round. So the power definitely translated on short notice up a weight class. I feel as though he's going to have the power advantage here. He's got pretty good accurate flurries. I don't see NURGOZHAY going to be able to, take him down in this fight, because I don't think he's going to be able to get his striking going with closing the distance so fast, the way that he does. Like I said, he got fraud tracked by Brenderson Ribeiro, who's a less tactical striker than SATYBALDIEV. I'm trying to say his name correct. Does offer, pretty good mixture of his striking game. Like he's not bad. He just really got, exposed, and it was a pretty bad weight cut. I don't expect him to miss weight here, but he's given up a pretty sizable reach disadvantage, rather, 5 inches for the side of I think we could see DR getting backed up against the cage and smothered with some big shots from I think I'm leaning here. He's a pretty heavy favorite too. We could look at the odds here. Well, at open he was a heavy favorite. My bad. Opened at like minus 250 range. He's close to minus 163. I think there's a lot of love on the DR side. So maybe, people are expecting him to bounce back. But from what I've seen, short notice, he's a pretty nasty striker. And, even the fights up before his, UFC debut, he showed that he can, go 3 rounds. He can find a submission. I think, his first submission was the fight right before his UFC debut. TKO wins. He's pretty solid all around. So I'm going with SATYBALDIEV to get a win here. We could see, I don't know, maybe under 2.5. I wonder what the we don't have the line for that, y'all. But yeah, I could see a finish from SATYBALDIEV. DR getting dropped by Ribeiro. I feel as though probably, he's more accurate than Ribeiro and probably has a bigger punch too. So I could definitely see SATYBALDIEV getting a knockout here. But I'll just go with him. Money line. Minus 163 is a pretty, solid price tag too. Next fight up, we got Long Zhao versus Su Young-yu. Now, I picked against Su Young-yu last time out. They were calling this guy, the Chinese Habib. And, he kind of looked like it. He's not Habib, but he looked, he lived up to the little nickname that everybody's giving him. So I am picking him here. Long Zhao, he does have a pretty good, height and reach advantage. But the thing about Long Zhao is he does not use reach to his advantage at all. He likes to close the distance, wants to clitch up, do a lot of his work there. I would say Su Young-yu is probably the better wrestler and grappler. Long Zhao does have some decent takedowns. He in that fight against Chang Ho Lee, who we also saw, destroy, what's his name? Cortavius Romeus. Um, he was under pressure early, but he was getting bodied with the knees in the clinch by Chang Ho Lee. Su Young Yu, I feel as though he'll be able to take Long Zhao down. And the reason why I say Su Young Yu's grappling and wrestling is better is because he has better control on the mat. Chang Ho Lee was able to get back to his feet when Long Zhao was trying to take him down or even tie him up against the cage. He was able to, break away or, cause damage with the knees, which is what won him that fight. He dominated AJ Cunningham last time, who was dropping from 155. So you would think, that big of a drop, he should have a strength advantage, but he just could not, do anything on the mat against Su Young Yu. Nickname is Jiu-Jitsu, so what that, comes with. He's looking for a submission. He's looking for a finish. He threatened a few submissions against AJ Cunningham, wasn't able to get it, but dude is pretty legit on the mat. Long Zhao, he does a lot of dirty work in a clinch. I think if they do tie up, I see Su Young Yu taking this fight to the ground, probably getting a submission or probably just, a dominant control time type of win. So I'm going with Su Young Yu to win this fight. Unanimous decision. Minus 130, plus 110 on the odds. Pretty decent numbers for Su Young Yu. He was a heavy favorite last time out. If we could get AJ Cunningham, minus 450 last time. Long Zhao, I don't feel as though, the pressure is better than AJ Cunningham, so I kind of get it. But yeah, I'm going with Su Young Yu. Decent price tag on him too. Next fight, we got short notice Kyle Daukaus taking on Michel Pereira. I'm picking Michel Pereira. This is going to be a, you know what? Did I skip a fight? Let me make sure I ain't skip a fight because I really like that fight. Yeah, I did. My bad. So gave you my pick already, but let's go to Yizha versus Weston Wilson. I'm picking Yizha, but I do not like the line at all. Let's go to the the lines right now. Minus 1200, plus 700. Ziya or Zayi, I can't, Yizha. His last fight, he was a heavy underdog against Gabriel Santos, where he got beat the hell up for 3 rounds, got dropped like twice in that fight, more than twice. I think in 2 different rounds he got dropped. He primarily is a grappler. His striking is okay, but Weston Wilson, I get why he would be a favorite, but minus 1200 is crazy, bro. Yizha, like I said, primarily a grappler, got his ass whooped last time. Hasn't fought in a year, but Weston Wilson hasn't fought in a year as well. I have not seen a lot of film of Yizha to suggest that he's a good grappler off of his back, so that could be interesting if Weston Wilson lands a takedown. His chin is solid, but like I said, he got dropped and rocked a few times in that fight, took a head kick right to the chin, dropped, and he was able to get right back up. So it's like I'm banking on Yizha to win because he's gritty, not because of all of his techniques. You know what I'm saying? It's a nasty pick right here. Minus 1200 too. This is probably like a live play, if anything. It's just Weston Wilson hasn't shown that he's UFC level. He's lost. These losses are forgivable. Gene Silva knockout, like Gene Silva's knocking everybody out or finishing everybody. Joe Anderson Brito, who's a pretty solid prospect, or if you want to call him a prospect, I think he's like 32, something like that. But, he lost to Pat Sabatini. It's not a bad loss on his record. I think he got his knee destroyed in that fight too. And then he got a sub over Jekka Sergi. Jekka Sergi's trash. We just saw him get absolutely slaughtered by my man, what's his name? Dude from Korea. Yu. I think it's something like that. Sung Young Yu. The Korean Conor McGregor. What's his name? Ju Sang Yu. Yeah. Knockout in like 10 seconds. But Weston Wilson, one thing that he can use to his advantage is the height. He is pretty long, 6'1" compared to 5'7". Only has a 2-inch reach advantage, but his legs are super long, and that's how he was able to, throw up that triangle on Jekka Sergi. So if Yizha shoots for a takedown and he's in Weston Wilson's guard, he's not necessarily completely safe. So I don't know. This is just a weird fight, man. Minus 1200, plus 700 for Weston Wilson. I would probably bet this fight fight probably ends in like a submission or something like that, but I don't like the odds whatsoever. So I'm more than likely going to fade this fight on any play that I make. So I'm going with HAYISER, but it's really just, yeah, I'll go with HAYISER. Next fight, Michel Pieta versus Kyle Daukaus, short notice Daukaus, and I am picking Kyle Daukaus, as you guys already heard. The Dark Knight, I'm going with him. Michel Pieta, I think he is on a downward spiral, bro. You know, before the Fluffy fight, he looked like a monster. He looked like I think he was in the rankings. And then, you know, he ran into Anthony Hernandez, got absolutely dog walked. And then the fight against Abus, he did not look to pull the trigger at all. He was very sluggish in the striking, looked tired a lot. Both of him and Abus looked pretty tired. And we banged Abus Magomedov plus 110 as a lock of the week, that fight too. But it was just a very sloppy performance. Michel Pieta did not look like himself at all, and I don't know if he's going to be able to turn the clock back. You know, he normally fights pretty well against guys where he can just run through them. I think Kyle Daukaus is fighting with a lot of confidence now. You know, he left the UFC about almost three years ago, got finished by Eric Anders and somebody else TKO'd him. Eric Anders, Roman Dolidze. Those losses are pretty forgivable. I mean, you know, Eric Anders at that time wasn't bad. He was, you know, a pretty solid UFC vet. And then Roman Dolidze, we just saw Dolidze probably, you know, a fight away from being in title considerations, but it is what it is. Pretty heavy hands. But he went on this, you know, dominant run for the past 2 years. Again, yeah, granted, it was against a 7-7 guy, 8-4 guy. But 17-8 is pretty, you know, decent as far as competition goes. And then a year ago, got a knockout. He's been training. He's been ready for his comeback. He was ready to step in short notice, I believe, on that the Taitsuda Taira card. I feel as though there was a fight that fell out and he was ready to step in for that. So the UFC gave him a chance, and I feel as though he's coming back with vengeance. He looks a little better than he did. You know, he's finding the submissions. He found, you know, the Darce is his favorite choke. That's why it's his new nickname. But the dude has 11 wins by submission. Never been submitted. Only has the 2 knockouts from Anders and Roman Dolidze. I feel as though Kyle Daukaus can not necessarily impose his will, but I think he can make this a tricky fight for Michel Pieta. He's a similar frame like Abus. I think he has a bigger reach advantage than Abus did in that fight against Pereira too. Let's look at what Abus was. Abus is 6'2", 78. Kyle is 76. So similar in the reach and height advantage too. So I think he can make it tricky for Michel Pieta to close distance comfortably. He does have a solid jab, solid 2 down the middle too. He is pretty good with the straight shots and, you know, finding the takedown after that. I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Daukaus wins this fight decision or maybe a submission. So I'm going with Kyle Daukaus to make his UFC return and get a pretty, you know, big statement win. Yes, it's Michel Pieta that's on a downward spiral, but Michel Pieta has always been known as a demolition type of guy in the UFC. So could put him in a really good, you know, spot. We could probably see him, you know, one more fight, and then if he wins that, he could be talking about, you know, a ranked opposition or top 20 somewhere around there. So I'm going with the Dark Knight to win this fight short notice. You know, he's shown pictures of him recently. He looks like he's been ready for a fight. He's been training for who knows how long, you know what I'm saying? Not a full fight camp or anything like that, but I do believe he trains over there with Sean Brady and them. So that gym is pretty right. Oh no, my bad. Don't want to give you guys bad information. I thought he was, but Kyle Daukaus, I think he can make his comeback here against Michel Pieta, who's, like I said, has not looked the same since that Fluffy fight. Really feel like Fluffy, you know, got him with the what's the movie? Damn, I'm drawing a blank. The Michael Jordan movie where the Monstars took the powers from everybody else. That's what Fluffy did to him. He probably did it to Roman Dolidze too. So I'm going with Kyle, the Dark Knight Daukaus, to win this fight. Next fight, we got Rong Zhu taking on Austin Hubbard. I'm going with Rong Zhu. I feel as though, you know, he's younger, more athletic, more explosive, faster. Striking combinations are better. should be able to win a unanimous decision. Austin Hubbard has never been knocked out as a professional, so I don't see him getting, knocked out here. His chin has been solid for a while. Is on a bit of a, downward, losing streak right now, losing to Alexander Hernandez, where it was a split decision, but it really wasn't. Alexander Hernandez pretty much dominated that fight. And then Markel Medeiros, he did have a testy moment in the third round where he got Medeiros taken down, threatened a couple submissions, but Rongju is pretty, Rongju is more fast he's more fast twitch to Markel Medeiros, and I feel as though he's better defensively sound on the mat as well too. We saw him in this Cody Steele match. He almost got caught in a heel hook, but he was able to get back to his feet within 45 seconds. So Cody Steele was a highly touted prospect too, and he rocked him, dropped him, was piecing him up the entire fight. The CROSBIE fight 11 months ago, yes, he got stopped. His eye got blown the hell up, but he was looking pretty solid on the feet up until he got caught with a perfect elbow. It was really just the perfect elbow, so I could forgive him for that. Same reach, giving up an inch in height, but I don't really think it's going to cause much of a disturbance for Rongju. Hubbard, he does struggle with guys with pretty sound speed advantages. Medeiros isn't that fast, but he was faster than Hubbard, and we've seen him get picked apart for 2 rounds, I'll say. Does have decent power shots, but it's really like far and few between. His grappling is decent, but I don't see him finding the sub on Rongju. So I am going with the heavy favorite Rongju to win this fight, probably by unanimous decision. We didn't go over the odds for this fight, my bad. -260 for PEREIRA, +220 for DAUKAUS, who's a big underdog. -270 for Rongju, and +230 for Austin Hubbard. I do see Rongju winning this fight pretty comfortably. Next fight, we got Loner Kavanagh taking on Charles Johnson. This is an interesting fight, man. I don't know why the UFC keeps giving Charles Johnson like undefeated prospects or damn near dangerous prospects on the rise, making their debuts type of fights. But I'm going with Charles Johnson, man. I know Loner Kavanagh is pretty fast. He's pretty, accurate with his striking, does throw up a lot of dangerous kicks. But I feel as though Charles Johnson has already seen it already. And I have to give him, respect and props for fighting Ramazan Timurov, who just popped hot for steroids. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't look like he was getting mopped in that fight. He just started a little late. Timurov is a big power puncher. I favor his power over Loner Kavanagh. Loner Kavanagh, he's a pretty slick kickboxer. But in this, Felipe Dos Santos fight, he was getting touched up. He got dropped. I think his eye was busted, and he had to go to the well with wrestling against Felipe Dos Santos, who I feel as though is like a busted UFC experiment. They didn't really experiment with him because he was just a short notice replacement to fight Manel Kape, and he just overlived his expectations in that fight, because it was a pretty back and forth match for what it was until Manel Kape was able to pull out later, or pull, you know what I'm saying, win the fight. But Loner Kavanagh, I don't know, this is a really big test for him, man. Charles Johnson, he's a vet. Yeah, he's 34, but he doesn't really, I don't think Charles Johnson has ever been knocked out. Yeah, never been finished. His only losses are decisions, 6-5 in the UFC, but he's been, taking on some pretty steep competition. Knocked out Joshua Van, if you guys don't know, Charles Johnson, he's pretty good, man. Striking is good, does have some wrestling in him. I think Charles Johnson could win this fight. Could be a back and forth match, but I'm going with Charles Johnson. I think, he's been eager to fight again. I was talking to him at UFC Atlanta, and I think that was around the time when Timurov popped hot, or it might have been like a couple weeks later, a week or two later. But he's been eager to get back in there, man. I think this is a good fight back for Charles Johnson to get his name back in the mix, because he was fighting he fought Joshua Van, and then I believe he didn't get ranked. He fought MADERJI. He should have had a ranked opponent after the Van fight. They gave him MADERJI, won that fight, and then they gave him Timurov. This was supposed to be a ranked opponent, and now everyone that has beaten Charles Johnson, except for MADERJI, has been ranked. Joshua Van, you know, he's fighting for the belt, and then Timarov. Well, I don't know how they're gonna handle him now, but he entered the rankings after beating Charles Johnson. I don't think Leonard Kavanagh does it, man. He's a pretty big favorite. He's fighting. He is Chinese, but he's fighting out of London. So they're trying to give him, you know, the home crowd advantage. Charles Johnson with a good reach advantage. Striking is clean. Can keep the pace up for 3 hard rounds. This is definitely going to be a striking battle. I could see Charles clipping Loner and Loner going to the, going to the wrestling. I think Charles Johnson keeps him at bay, though. I like Charles Johnson to win this fight, and I like him as an underdog. So give me the underdog, Charles Johnson, plus 157. Loner Kavanagh, minus 182. I like Charles' chances, man. Energy to come out victorious out in China at 3 in the morning here, you know, stateside. So yeah, I'm going with the G. Next fight up, the featured prelim of the night, we got Maheshate taking on Gage Young. This is an interesting fight because both guys like to kickbox from distance, pretty good speed, decent power. It's gonna be a close fight. I'm going to go with Gage Young. I feel as though he's a little faster. When they close distance, I feel as though he has the better power in the pocket. I know he hasn't beaten a UFC level fighter. You know, he lost his contender series fight against Quillian Salakid, but Salakid is pretty good, man. And then he lost short notice against Evan Elder, but he was still ripping Elder with some pretty good body kicks. 3rd round, he's starting to, you know, turn it up a little bit too. I gave him some flack because he hasn't fought, you know, real UFC competition. If you look at his record, it's 2-7, 5-5, 6-4, and then he fought Evan Elder, who's 9-2 or 8-2 at that point. But I think Gage Young could win this fight. It will be a little bit of a task. Maheshate is taller, does have a slight reach advantage, but Maheshate, he's a good kickboxer, but he doesn't, you know, fight from range as well as he should. He does keep his guard pretty high, which leaves the body open, which I think could work, you know, in favor for Gage Young, who rips the body kicks pretty fast. He was ripping Evan Elder with them too, and Evan Elder was sucking wind in that 2nd round. I think his chin could be a little iffy. You know, he got knocked out by Vyacheslav. And then that Nicholas Mota fight, he just got absolutely dog walked as well. I think Maheshate is going to need to stay at space, but I don't think he's going to be able to do that. He doesn't really do it even in fights that he wins, you know. Beat a wash Gabriel Benitez. Steve Garcia knockouts. I mean, it looks good on paper, but look at Steve Garcia now. Look at what, you know, Maheshate's been doing. I'm going to go with Gage Young. I think it's going to be a close fight. It could be like a baby version of the Mota Nazim Sadikov fight. So I'm going with Gage Young. I think he could pull it off. I think he's faster, better power. The body kicks is something that, you know, sticks out to me. I'm going with Gage Young. Minus 140, plus 120. The odds were a little closer. It was damn near, you know, a coin flip. Yeah. Yesterday or earlier today. What's today? Yeah, earlier today. Minus 115. Maheshate was like minus 110. Or plus 110, excuse me. Plus 105, yeah. So it's a little bit of money coming in. I'm going with Gage Young, though. I think he could pull it off. Get his first UFC win. Main card opener. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We got Talyalik NURGOZHAY versus Kiefer Crosbie. I'm going with NURGOZHAY. He's a pretty dangerous southpaw with you know, pretty good explosive power. Does start fast. He's got a big height and reach advantage. He rips combinations pretty well. He's starting to find his jiu-jitsu. He just got a submission win in his last 2 fights ago. My bad. Yeah, armbar. I think that was his first submission victory. Yep, first submission victory. Did get knocked out 1 time in the 3rd round, and I believe that was the first and only time. So you seen round 3. The first time you saw round 3, he got knocked out. Got a knockout the very next fight in round 3, and yeah, He really doesn't go, far in fights. So he is a bit of a wild card with, low level fight experience compared to, guys that are coming into the UFC now. I need to see him fight before I can, throw money on him. He's a pretty heavy favorite here. But I mean, I get it against Kiefer Crosbie, who's got decent boxing, terrible ground skills, closest distance with the brawl style, decent chin. I don't know. Kiefer Crosby's kind of a little iffy too. Inactivity, looking bad outside the promotion too. Losing, I think he had like a boxing match. He won, but it really wasn't impressive at all. 2 years ago, he beat Alex Oliveira, but Alex Oliveira was old. You know what I'm saying? I think he was probably like close to 40 around that time. Losing to Kevin Jousset by submission. Kevin Jousset is a striker, so right. I'm thinking about Kevin Jousset is a striker. Trains out of CKB, City Kickboxing. If you guys don't know, that's where Israel Adesanya, Kai out of France all trained, and then got subbed up by Sam Patterson. That's pretty forgivable, but it was a year ago now. Granted, NURGOZHAY fought a year ago as well, but he's also making his UFC debut. Chinese fighter. I mean, he probably knocks out Kiefer Crosbie or finds a submission, but I need to see it before, I throw money on this guy. So I would have liked to see him, roll the UFC or Dana White Contender Series or something like that. But this is kind of a layup for him. So we'll see. Under 2.5 is definitely something that I would be interested in though. Minus 500 plus 375 for Crosbie now. Yeah, I just need to see, him fight in the UFC before I could back him with real oomph, you know what I'm saying? Next fight, we got MADERJI taking on Kevin Borjas. This is a really good fight. I really like Kevin Borjas in this match. I am picking Kevin Borjas to win. Looking at Borjas, he's a tight Peruvian kickboxer similar to like a Daniel Marcos. Good leg kicks, good head movement, slips shots pretty well. More power on his shots than MADERJI. Has the ability to shoot takedowns. If anybody's going to be shooting takedowns, I think it's going to be Kevin Borjas. I do feel as though this fight could go the distance. Looking at Sue, he is pretty long for the division. Does have a good speed on that 2 as well. That straight 2 down the middle. His ground game is a little questionable. Definitely prefers to strike. We see him get wrestled up by Charles Johnson. Did throw up a triangle in that second round, I believe, but Johnson was able to, get out of it and reclaim top position up until the end of the bell. Rangy kickboxer, but he does have a lack of ability to flow. Normally throws 1 or 2 shots from range, and then excuse me, my throat is just really itchy right now. Throws 1 or 2 shots from range and then waits for his opponent to do whatever they're about to do. He's pretty reactionary, but doesn't really counter well. So I do think Borjas can pull this fight off. He is, giving up pretty good, reach and height. But it's not like we haven't seen MADERJI fight the, fighters that are shorter and, shorter reach than him. Not as much. Charles Johnson has 70-inch reach. Tim Elliott, he's just a freak. We just saw what he did to Kaya Sakura. And then Matt Schnell got the comeback submission on him. That was a pretty intense fight. If you guys didn't watch it, it was probably one of the best fights in the UFC. Matt Schnell finished him in the 3rd round, I believe, after both of these guys were getting clipped left and right. But Matt Schnell also has like a 70-inch reach. Borjas slightly, shorter arms, but I like the way he strikes, man. His defense pretty sound. That impressive victory over Rodriguez where he dropped him, and Rodriguez had the ability to wrestle in that fight, and he was unable to get Borjas down. I think if it's just gonna be a striking match, I gotta go with MADERJI. Against MADERJI, I gotta go with Borjas. I know he lost to Alessandro Costa, but Costa is pretty nasty in this division, and then he lost to Joshua Van by unanimous decision, so that's pretty forgivable too. So I'm going with Kevin Borjas. I think the Peruvian has another W in him, and I think he could beat a MADERJI here. Next fight, we go into the featured fight of the night. We got Sergey Pavlovich versus Waldo Salsa Boy Cortez or Acosta. Now, I picked Waldo in his last fight. I gave you guys Waldo at plus money against Sergey Spivak 2 months ago. Dude was ready to come back short notice event against Taliesin Teixeira on that Taitsuda Taira card for a heavyweight main event. I'm going with Sergey. Sergey. Damn, I'm missing this all the way up. I'm reading his name. That's why I said Sergey. I'm going with Waldo again, man. I think Waldo is going to frustrate Sergey Pavlovich. Let me give you the breakdown on Pavlovich. He has not shown any improvement to his fight style. He's just a bruiser that walks forward, throws big shots, tries to cut off, not really cut off the cage, but he just walks at you. You know what I'm saying? Pressure utilizes boxing only, does have ground and pound, but never really seen him shoot takedowns to really, employ that into his game. I feel as though he's most dangerous in the first round and really just chases the knockout shot, doesn't really set up anything. Everything is just big power. You know what I'm saying? Hooks, uppercuts. The jab might, set up a shot or two, but it's not like he's finding a combination off the jab. He just throws it and then he's coming with power. Lacks a lot of head movement, and he's pretty vulnerable to leg kicks. Now, when I look at Waldo, look at his debut, damn near 2 years ago now to now. We've seen him wrestle. If you look at the Robelis to Spain fight, he took the Spain down, controlled him. Yeah, it probably wasn't, a fun fight to watch, but we've seen him incorporate that into his game. Look at the Ryan Spann fight where he's, finding the counter, moving his head pretty well. Look at the Sergey Spivak fight where he's throwing leg kicks now. I think Waldo Cortes is going to frustrate Sergey Pavlovich on the feet. Head movement is elite. He ate some pretty good shots from Spivak too. I feel as though his chin is going to be able to hold up. I like how he bangs the body, unlike a lot of heavyweights. They're just head hunting. Better footwork, better head movement. Takedown defense is pretty good for his size. He defended a lot of Sergey Spivak's takedowns as well. I think, Waldo, I can't doubt him anymore. You got to take the guy that's constantly improving. And, Waldo can find himself in the title consideration with a win here. So I'm going with Salsa Boy, man. Pretty heavy underdog too. I really like him in this matchup to, mix it up. And we could possibly see Sergey get knocked out a second time. Waldo plus 191, Sergey minus 226. I get it. Everyone wants to see, Sergey get another knockout, but I don't think so, man. It's the same story with Sergey Pavlovich, whereas Waldo has looked like a different fighter in every fight. So I got to go with the guy that's mixing it up. All right, next fight up, we are going to the co-main event of the evening. We got Brian T-City Ortega taking on Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling. I'm going with Aljo here. There was a little bit of confusion, and finally we got it cleared up that this fight is going to be 5-minute rounds. Thought it was a 3-by-5, but it's actually 5-by-5. So I think Tapology updated it by now, but if not, I'll update you guys as well. I'm going with Aljo, man. It should be not necessarily a dominant fight, but his wrestling is just gonna be a little too much for Brian Ortega, who we all know is a pretty solid jiu-jitsu guy, but I don't see him throwing something up on Aljamain, who's got solid jiu-jitsu in himself. Ortega, he probably is the better boxer, but his chin could be a little fading. Does have the heart to fight back. Diego Lopez rocked him in that fight. Yair rocked him early in that fight. He was able to find a triangle, in the second or third round after coming back. This was TKO, but his shoulder blew out in that fight. Volkanovski was chinning him up for, 4 or 5 rounds up until he threw up, that infamous triangle and then the ghillie. I feel as though that was Brian Ortega's peak, I don't think he's going to be climbing back into the title picture. I feel as though the fight with Max and the fight with Alexander Volkanovski were the highest highs that Brian Ortega is probably going to see. Body is a little more banged up, many more injuries, and the speed doesn't look the same to me. I feel as though Funkmaster could have some success on the feet with his awkward striking style. Jiu-jitsu specialist will need to find it off his back against a strong wrestler in Aljo, who we just said, he went tooth and nail with Movsar Evloev, and a lot of people thought, Aljo won that fight. Wrestling exchanges in that fight were pretty awesome for a wrestling match primarily. I don't really see a clear path to victory for Ortega. I feel as though it probably need to be like a fluky Aljamain mistake on the mat for Ortega to find submission or something like that. I don't think he's knocking Aljamain out up at 145. He looks a lot stronger. Chin looks better. I don't see him get a knockout here or even, coast into a victory with the boxing. I think Aljo's wrestling is going to be too much. Aljo, excellent wrestler up at 145. He walked through Calvin Kattar pretty easily. I told you guys he was washed, in the Steve Garcia fight too, and we just saw that. And then, he lost a close fight against Movsar Evloev, who's a pretty, outstanding grappler in himself as well. Evloev, he was supposed to, be fighting damn near for the title had he fought Pico, but pulled out. So it just looks better on Aljamain's. I know it's a loss, but he looked really good in the loss against what would have been the title challenger. Now we're getting Murphy Volk. Grappling controls top tier, looks to take the back. He calls it the backpack. He likes to get on people's backs and choke them out. I don't think he's choking Brian Ortega out, who's pretty sound in grappling defense as well. I think Aljamain is probably going to win, get some control time, the takedowns, a little bit of striking, get a decision win. Do think the over is live. Probably over, definitely going over. And I can see Aljo just cruising to a somewhat easy victory. I know he's a little older, but like I said, his body is a little less damaged than Brian Ortega. I know he had that neck and spine surgery after the Peter Yan fight, but he looked better after that, honestly. Cardio hasn't been an issue. I know down at 135, he was sucking down a lot of muscle. Up at 145, he just went 3 hard rounds with Movsar. And like I said, the striking exchanges and the wrestling exchanges were pretty elite. So I got to give him credit where it's due. And I do believe Aljamain is winning this fight pretty comfortably. Aljo minus 246 plus 211 on Brian Ortega. Was a pretty sizable favorite. Yeah, minus 300 range. Went down to minus 325. Minus 240 is not too bad on Aljo. So could look for something with him on it. Do believe Aljamain Sterling is winning by decision here. And, if you guys follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, I did say that Pico should fight the loser of this fight just because I don't feel as though the winner here is, fighting for a title or a title contender fight or anything like that. I feel as though loser of this fight versus Pico is definitely a good match for Pico because both of these guys, their striking isn't that good. They're pretty good wrestlers, which is, something that can still be marketable against the Pico, but Miko should be able to take both of their heads off, if you get what I'm saying. So I do like the loser of this fight to fight Pico. Both of these guys do take a little bit to get a fight booked too, so could all work out. Ortega, Sterling, loser versus Aaron Pico. I really like the sound of that. Main event of the evening. If you haven't already, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Do I need to say it? Mingyang Zhang is going to knock out Johnny Walker inside of 2 rounds. Simple as that. I don't need to give you the breakdown, but I will because it's my job. Johnny Walker, chin is pretty bad. Seen him get knocked out nonstop. He's got 6 knockout losses, I believe. Yeah, 6. Magomed Ankalaev starched him in that rematch. Volkan Ozdemir starched him in the first round. Jamal Hill starched him. Corey Anderson starched him. You've seen him knocked out over and over and over and over again. He had promise at one point, but Johnny Walker's too fluky, bro. Does throw a lot of creative, weird stuff. Like when Magomed hurt him in that first fight, he threw he got clipped and then jumped damn near out the octagon with a flying knee. Almost caught Magomed. It would have been interesting had he landed that, but Johnny Walker, man, I think his days are gone. His chin is gone. His brother is the better walker at this point. Does have a big reach advantage, but Johnny Walker is not a guy that uses reach whatsoever. Mingyang Zhang, this is what I say about Johnny Walker. When he fights accurate power strikers, he loses every single time. Volkan Ozdemir, Magomed Ankalaev, I know he's not known for his power, but he's pretty accurate with his striking. Who else? Jamal Hill. Mingyang Zhang is probably a better striker than everybody I just named. And dude is on a tear. Knocked out Anthony Smith first round. Ozzy Diaz knockout. Brendan Ribeiro knockout. Tuco Tokos on road to UFC. I see Mingyang Zhang with a pretty nasty, probably an elbow in the pocket on Johnny Walker inside of 2 rounds. Knockout victory. And China, you have your prospect, your heavyweight or light heavyweight prospect in Mingyang Zhang. Pretty big favorite, minus 309, plus 250 for Johnny Walker. Odds they're probably gonna, get a lot wider too. Definitely could see him closing at like minus 450. Yeah, open at minus 400. I definitely see him closing around like minus 450. Johnny Walker, he's gonna need every, he's gonna need a banana peel to fall in the octagon for him to win. Not that he's bad like that, but his chin is failing him, his body's failing him. He's also been injured a few times, had fights canceled due to injuries not too long ago too. I can't pick a Johnny Walker with a bad chin, bad body, and he's taking on a Mingyang Zhang who's explosive, nasty power, accurate, younger. The writing's on the wall. Mingyang Zhang, I'll even go first round knockout. So give me Mingyang Zhang to close out the UFC Shanghai card up at 6 in the morning, 6, 7 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. They're going to be fighting. I think the card starts at like 3 in the morning. I'm going to wake up to watch it, but I'll be honest, I'll probably fall asleep. I got stuff to do, man. This is I like the early cards, but not this early. Maybe like a 9 a.m. start time. That's, when I used to live in Hawaii, I like the 9 a.m. I used to watch fights at like 9 in the morning. They'll be done around like 2 in the afternoon, or maybe even the later cards. The card will be done at like 8. I can still go enjoy the night. 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm gonna have to sleep early on Friday. I got things to do, man. But that is what I got for the full card breakdown. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate you all watching, and like always, I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.